Hey everyone, welcome back to another Godzilla Battleline video, and today I am discussing what leaders you should be using, investing, and upgrading in Godzilla Battleline. So, a lot of veteran players are going to see this video, they already know what's up, but I still think this is going to be worth the watch for them, and I think a lot of them will largely agree with where I'm going to place a lot of units. And for newer players wondering, what the heck they're going to be doing in the meta, who's the best, who's what, I want to use my favorite characters. This is, I think, going to be really informative for you. So, I'm going to break down what's going on. Above me, you can see the game. I'm just going to go through and use it to read you the leader abilities. On the right side is my tier list. So I have a late game tier, which is the top tier, which is characters that once you hit like Kodum rank, King of the Monsters, a lot more refined decks are going to be there. These are the leaders that you're going to see the most. These are the leaders that are going to get the most benefit out of your investment. Early game, I'm going to put a lot of leaders here that are just generally better. The earlier in the game you are, a lot of new players are going to be having a lot of these units, and if you want to use them as your leader, go for it. If you don't want to use them as your leader, it's fine as well. Early game, a really big part of the meta is everything goes. It's not until you get to the higher ranks where there's like a pretty cookie cutter setup meta. And then the no section is just for units that I don't think at all should ever be your leader, because I just don't like their ability, and I think that there's better options. So before I get into any of this, I do want to state, and a lot of, veterans of the game are going to come at me if I don't state it, but really early game, 5-star leaders or not 5-star, oh my gosh, 4-star leaders are all very, very good. They all have around the same exact health as a leader, like 5,000 whatever health. So very early game, you're going to see a lot of new players with 4-star leaders, or you should, because they have the most health. The 3-star leaders don't have anywhere near that amount of health really early on. So very, very early in the game, it's going to be more beneficial for you to use a 4-star leader. However, like I said before, the higher up you go in the ranks, the more cut out the meta is going to be. You're going to see a shift. So without explaining that anymore, let's just jump into it and check out the leaders in, I have them in alphabetical order, except for Kiryu. So, oh, also, before we get into this, this video is going to go live on April 6, 2022. We're supposed to get a new leader unit this month, or an old unit is supposed to become a leader, so we don't know yet at the time of this video is going live what that's going to be. When you're watching this, we might already know, and maybe I'll have to make this again, but when this goes up, we have no idea yet, so just keep that in mind before you are late to this video and you're in the comments jumping down my throat. So, next, let's start with Battra. So Battra is here. Let's check the details right above me, and let's check his leader ability. Special move. Prism Beam, 1 energy cost. We love an ability that's 1 cost energy, cooldown 90 seconds. Amazing. Very low cooldown, very low cost. This is like a solid start to an ability. Now, here's where Battra falls short. Deals 40 damage in a straight line, which I think that actually might be the least damage any of the leaders do on their attack, but we're not really using their abilities for their attack. We're using their abilities because it's going to bring an extra level of, oomph to your team, right? A good ability can take your team from a non-meta team to a meta team if used right. So, increases the movement speed of all allied aerial units on the battlefield by 50% for 15 seconds. In this current meta, your aerial units are already all going to be really fast. This is not a good leader ability. I know that there are a lot of decks that can make this work. You throw Des Ghidorah in there, King Ghidorah in there, both Mothras, but overall, you can invest in Battra safely, but you're not going to get a lot of investment out of him as your leader. I'm putting him as our no. Do not put Battra as your leader. Battra is way too good on the field for it to be a leader, like stuck in the leader position, and 2, this ability, once compared to all the others, is just not even on the same level. A lot of abilities that will only help one kind of unit, like flying or ground or whatever, they have to be exceptionally powerful for them to really matter. This doesn't matter. This is just upping speed, which is going to bring your enemies closer to your opponent. There's way better speed up characters. Next is Biollante. Also, I'm organizing the late game, early game, whatever, in no particular order, by the way, unlike how we do the tier lists. Biollante as a leader. This is one of my favorite leader abilities, for sure. Gotta get that itch out. Okay, so, deals 200 damage in a straight line. Already way better than that. Oh, I forgot to mention 60 cost cooldown. This was a 30... Was it a 30 cost at one point cooldown? I don't remember. The 60-second cooldown, 1 energy, right? Deals 200 damage in a straight line, way better than Battra's. And increase the movement speed in bodies of water of allied ground units on the battlefield by 300%. Already better than Battra's 50% for flying units. As long as your unit is in the water, 300% movement increase. This kills on the London maps. When Skull Island was around, this was a menace, right? New York, this will do good. The only map this doesn't really do well in is Tokyo, because it uses like 3 little plots of water. And increased damage dealt of all allied long-range attacking units on the battlefield by 20% for 30 seconds. So, you use this ability, 30 seconds go by. The cooldown is 60 seconds. So 30 seconds later, you can use this ability. You can use this ability like 5 times in a match, right? Amazing cooldown. And that damage, 20% damage for 30 seconds, is a very, very long damage buff. Very, very long. A lot of the meta units right now are long range. Battra, Ultima, King Ghidorah. Even the Jaguar singular point is long range. Manila is long range. Super X is long range. Kiryu is long range. Amazing ability. Absolutely top tier ability. Biollante. You get her early, you level her up. You keep her as your leader. Late game, she is phenomenal. Now, mind you, Biollante is the highest DPS in the game as long as she's in water as a unit on the field. So, Biollante is an incredible unit. But an added bonus to her being a leader, I don't even know if you can see it in the special move here. When it comes down, there's her acid slap. So, it's going to spray and then watch her do some DPS. Full circle DPS around her. So in addition to her ability being amazing, she does a full AoE around her when she's attacked. Biollante, phenomenal leader. We're keeping her up in the late game section. Gigan. Leader, ability. Energy Ripper, 2 cost, 120-second cooldown. So you're pretty much getting like 1 or 2 really good shots with this ability. 300 damage in a straight line. I think that was better than Biollante's, but that's fine. We don't care about that. And raises the movement speed of allied ground units on the battlefield to Gigan speed for 10 seconds. Now, when Gigan does this, his movement speed takes priority over all the other speeds and status effects in the game. So if you use Mechagodzilla's slow on a character with the Gigan boost, it's not going to work. They're just going to go right through that. You have to stun a character that is getting Gigan boosted. You cannot slow them. They have to be stunned to stop them. This is an incredible ability. And while Gigan is a 3-star unit, right, he's going to have a lot less health than the 4 stars. Gigan, late game, you're going to get way more shards for Gigan and G89 and Mechagodzilla than you are any of the 4 stars. And this ability is going to do so well for ground units. This ability will take a Girth, a G89, a lot of heavy hitters and Gearus, a lot of tanks, and push them very, very far up. This is incredible for making a big push. This is a deck that has seen play for months and months and months. Not a meta deck. Is very, very strong, though. Definitely a big recommendation for late game as Gigan leader. Next, this is probably the best leader in the game. G89 is a late game 100%. Early game, G89 does not have too much health as a leader, but once you start getting like 15, 16, once you get 20, insane. Level 30, phenomenal health. This is the leader I use. I use Kong leader right now because I'm doing challenges for the Kong leader, but when I'm not using Kong leader, G89. No question, hands down, best leader in the game. Look at this ability. 2 cost, 90-second cooldown, so you can use this several times in a match. 350 damage in a fan shape, so like a cone, right? Increased damage dealt by allied units with an energy cost of 5 or more on the battlefield by 50% for 14 seconds, or 15 seconds. So 15 seconds, you know, not as long as Biollante's, however, the boost is significantly greater. It's a 50% damage boost, so who's getting boosted by this that's meta? Ultima, Super X, King Ghidorah, Battra will get this buff. Ghidorah can get this buff. Kiryu can get this buff. Godzilla 54 can get this buff. And Gearus can't get it anymore, which is unfortunate. Last season or the season before that he could, but not this season. But this is phenomenal. A lot of your main damage dealers, your heavy hitters, your long-range snipers are all going to be 5 or more energy. This ability synergizes so well with these insanely meta units that it's just gonna run through any opponent. You can use this several times in a match, like 3 times or something like that. So good, so powerful. G9 best leader in the game, hands down. All right, the Jaguar, you were down here. Oh, leader, special move, all-encompassing strike, 2 cost, 120-second cooldown. We do not like that cooldown timer, right? Gigan, I think, has a similar cooldown. His ability is really good. Read this. 300 damage in a circle, okay. Increases the movement speed of allied long-range attacking units on the battlefield by 50% for 15 seconds. This does what Battra does, but for long-range units. Why do I want my long-range units to be faster and get closer to the enemy? They're supposed to be in the back, and this is for, you know, I don't want Super X rushing up. I don't want Ultima rushing up. I want them to be in the back sniping. So already off to a bad start. His DPS as a leader is pretty good. This ability is terrible. He's way better on the field. I would never, if you're really early game and you're using Jet Jaguar as your leader, fine. As you move up in the ranks, you're gonna see he's not very good as a leader. All right, so next is Kong. I love Kong leader. Kong leader. Here's his ability. 1 cost, we love it. 90 seconds, also good time. 320 damage in a circle around him. Increases damage dealt by allied units with an energy cost of 6+ on the battlefield by 20% for 15 seconds. This is a typo. It's actually 4+ energy cost. So Kong is actually a really good leader. I'm putting him in the early game. A lot of people late game are using him for challenges. But yeah, if you get him pretty early, he is a really, really good leader. So I like Kong a lot. His ability is pretty good. GD9 has a better version of it, and so does Biollante. Kong pretty good. If you can use Kong, excellent, but odds are if you're a new player watching this video, you probably are not going to be able to get Kong. So sorry about that. Kong, pretty good leader though, if you have him leveled up. Who's next on our list? Mechagodzilla. I really like Mechagodzilla. This was my leader for the longest time when the game was brand new. Deals plasma grenades. The energy cost is 3 with a 60-second cooldown, so nice cooldown. We like that length. The energy cost a little bit high for this. Deals 150 damage and knocks back an opponent in a straight line. So you push them very far away. You can get this to proc twice if you time it right. And reduces the time it takes for facilities on the battlefield to generate allied units by 50% for 15 seconds. This would be really good if the facilities were any good in the game. They are not. Mechagodzilla has not really an ability that'll help you late game in the meta. However, you can get a lot more shards for him than you will for other 4-stars. Same with GD9 and Gigan. Although, however, unlike them, his ability isn't really usable with the larger amount of units. He is really good early game leader. If you get him, he's one of the first characters you get. You're like a mandatory cop. So you're just going to build him and build him and build him and build him. He's going to be really good, and if you use him on your team, you can use G89 and Gigan on the field, but I wouldn't recommend Gigan on the field. But if you use Gigan as a leader, you can run G89 and Mechagodzilla at 2 as a leader, and Mechagodzilla, honestly, at the end of the day, if you invested in him for a leader, and you end up using him as a unit, he's pretty okay in that regards as well. Next is Mothra leader. Now, Mothra leader does not have too much health, mind you. I think she actually has the same amount of health as the other units in the game, but very early on in the game's life, she did not have a lot of health. Life Force scales, 2 cost, 120 seconds, right? Restores 4% of maximum HP of each allied ground unit on the battlefield every 15 seconds. Now, this is a very, very good ability. She's a very good leader. However, you don't want to run her if you're not running very particular kinds of decks. You need decks with high HP characters. I do believe... I could put her in the late game. I don't know why I put her in the game. I do believe she is a very late game friendly character, especially the higher the levels are. What you want with Mothra is not early game, because she heals 4% of maximum health, right? So the higher the character's health, the greater that 4% of that health is going to be. So, like, GD9 leader, or GD9 on the field is going to get a ton back from this, right? Anguirus is going to get a ton of health back. Earth is going to get a ton of health back. Ultima, 1954 Godzillas, they're going to get a ton of health back. So Mothra is way better late game because the amount of health just on the field is way more. This ability is going to see a lot more play. Now, keep in mind, everything in the late game leader slot is very good early game as well, so if you get them early, focus on leveling them up. The chart is just to remind you who is going to be the best late game and who's going to be the best early game, or who is good early game at least. The late game the late game characters are going to be the best all around. The early game characters are good to use. The no's, just don't use them. Just thought I would clarify that one more time. Last 2 leaders, Spacegodzilla. Spacegodzilla has my favorite ability. It just needs so much more tweaking. Proton Field, 2 cost, 120-second cooldown. Produce 6 crystals across the battlefield and increase damage dealt by allied units near the crystal by 20%. Now, his crystals last for like 15 seconds or something like that. So 6 crystals for 15 seconds, pumping out a 20% damage buff, very solid ability. Actually, you just can't plan where the crystals go, and because that randomness is there and an element of this ability, you could be washing 2 energy down the drain. So very unreliable. However, still very good early game, because if you do get lucky with the crystals, that's an amazing distraction. So I feel comfortable saying he's a really good early game leader. And finally, there is Kiryu. Common misconception is a lot of players think Kiryu is an amazing leader. Kiryu is not a very good leader. However, he is probably the best early game leader, because you already get 1 Kiryu from the new missions, right? When you're a new player and you get your Kiryu missions, your 3, I don't remember what they're called, they're Kiryu pick missions or event missions or whatever, you get a Mothra on day 2 and you get a Kiryu on day 3. A lot of players are going to think, or a lot of new players think Kiryu is an amazing leader. I promise you, it's just because you're in the low rank. He really doesn't see any play as a leader in late game. He is a very good unit on the field, though, very versatile. So here's his ability. Absolute Zero Cannon, 8 energy cost, so this is by far the highest cost we've seen. 180-second cooldown, by far the highest energy cost we've seen. Depletes 90% of the current HP of an enemy unit in a straight line, or enemy units in a straight line within a certain range. So say a character has only 10 HP left, right, pixel health, and you use this on them, they're only going to have 1 health left. 90% of whatever the health they are at, not 90% of the overall health. This will not kill anything. This gets them extremely low. Now, this is very good for overtime, when you can hit the enemy leader, and then you just drop missiles and Mogera on them and stuff like that. However, the reason he is not a very good late game leader is because Biollante, you can use her ability throughout the entire game. Gigan, you can use it a few times throughout the game. Mothra, you can use her ability 1 or 2 times in the game. G89, you can use his ability 2 or 3 times within the game. Kiryu, you get 180 seconds of cooldown. So what is that? 3 minutes? And then his energy cost is 8, so that also takes a ton of time. You're only really getting this off once per match, right? Because if your enemy kills you before overtime starts, what are you using that Absolute Zero Cannon on? You're not going to use 8 energy on like a G89. So it's way too much of an investment for 1 shot of this ability, and if you fuck it up, it's just an L for you, right? Very good as a unit. I recommend Kiryu on the field 100%. But with that being said, these are all the leaders and what I think their best investment rating is. Biollante, G89, Gigan, and Mothra, in no particular order. Those are the best late game. Actually, if I were to put them in the best late game units, G89 is the best, then Biollante, then Mothra, then Gigan. Early game, Kong, Mechagodzilla, Spacegodzilla, Kiryu, all very great leaders, very viable leaders. They're just not going to see a ton of play in the end game unless people are doing specific challenges for them. And then Battra and Jaguar, I would just avoid them entirely as your leader. Their abilities are just inferior compared to units that do pretty much the same thing, just better. So with that being said, if you're still watching this video all the way through, thank you very much for making it to the end of this. We do have a link in the description down below if you're trying to buy any of the monster movie series Bandai figures. We follow our link to Hobby Link Japan down below, helps the channel out. And in the meantime, thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you all on the next one. Bye bye.